Howdy everybody, this is Neon Curbs here, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a neon logo. And you can use this in either your desktop background or maybe your YouTube banner or anything really, Facebook banner, whatever you'd like. So basically this is going to be what our end product is. I would show you how to make this. Maybe I'll save that for another tutorial, but right now I'm mostly focused on showing you how to make the neon in general. Really all it is just layering on various blurs, and that's where you get that neon effect. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is we're going to say File, New, okay? And if you're going to do a desktop, this is really where we're going to vary everything, and you're going to want to do your research. If you're going to do your desktop, make sure that it's the size of your monitor. 1920 by 1080 is my monitor size, and I'm doing 300 resolution, and I'm actually going to do it in CMYK. 16-bit is fine. The resolution, if your computer can't handle 300 resolution, then 200's fine, 100's pushing it, and don't do 72. You'll get a pixelated mess. Okay, so here we go. First we're going to start with a background. And here's a nice resource if you're trying to find a background and you're worried about copyright or whatever. Basically what you can do is actually when typing your background, brick wall background, because that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to use. Gonna go to images, okay, and then go to tools, usage rights, and labeled for reuse with modification. Okay, that way you know that you can use it, and this is going to be the background that I'm going to be using, this brick wall here. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it into Photoshop. Ta-da! Maybe see if I can straighten out the bricks a little bit. There we go. And how you do that, in case you didn't know, is you just hit Ctrl or Command if you're on a Mac, T, and then you drag. If you're using an older version of Photoshop, I'm using Creative Cloud, so I automatically have the most up-to-date version, which I recommend doing especially if you're a student, and you just pay per month, and you just automatically get the most recent version of each version of Photoshop. It used to be that you would have to hold Shift and then drag, but now with the newest one, they made it like Illustrator, where you just drag from the corner and then it keeps its ratio. But if you have an older model, you're going to want to hold Shift, because if you don't, then you're going to have this skewed mess, and we do not want that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down, we're going to create an adjustment layer, okay, and that is this circle that's half, that kind of looks like yin and yang. It's half black, half white, and if you are ever confused what something is, just go down and hover and it tells you what it is. With the adjustment layers, that one takes a bit of practice. You need to go into each one and play with it, but with the tools, if you ever don't know what a particular tool is, like for instance with the brush tool, you can just hover over it and it will give a nice video of what it is. Or you can just look up YouTube videos and it'll give you the intro, and it even tells you what the shortcut on the keyboard is. So it will be B on here, and oh look, it's a brush. Although I did a big no-no and I painted over my layer. Whenever you're adjusting layers that you got from the internet or it's a photo, if you're going to adjust directly, you're either going to want to copy it or you're just going to want to create a new layer over it and then do it. That way, if you mess something up, you can still change it, or you decide to change your mind. As I was saying, we're going to create an adjustment layer, and we're going to do curves, and we're just going to bring it way, oh sorry, wrong direction, We're going to bring it way up. And we're actually going to hit Control or Command U, forgot to do this, and bring the saturation all the way down. We want it to be black and white. That's more like it. Okay, now I can adequately adjust my curves because that's more of what I was going for. There we go. Okay, so we're going to make it just super contrasty. Alright, and then do another adjustment layer, and we're going to do layers. Levels, excuse me. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag the white way down, like so. All this is optional. This is all for the background itself. That's just what I like for what I was doing. So right here, you notice how I had a brick background. That is why. Okay. So now we're going to create a new layer. Okay. So, and that's this square with a plus on it. That's create a new layer. And we're going to go to gradient. So if your gradient tool is not already selected on your device, what you're going to do is you're going to go to that arrow to the side, hold down, and usually it will be a paintbrush, and hold down and gradient tools right there. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click radial gradient, and that's the circle one. I'm going to create a black to 0 opacity gradient, and actually if you were to drag this will go from the center out, and I don't want the black going from center out. I want it to go from the outside coming in. So how we do that is we're just going to simply flip them like so. There's probably an easier way to do this, but actually this is always how I've done it, and I don't know, it just works. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to drag from the center out. You can hold Shift, and let me do that again. Alright, I'm going to have a linear burn. Okay, and below it I'm going to have a very dark blue, like almost completely black. And so in order to get to the paint bucket tool, we're gonna do as we did before with the gradient tool. Click on it and hold it and go to paint bucket tool, or you can press G if it's already there. Not a big fan of that color, actually. So let's find another color. One with more blue instead of gray. Okay. Alright, now that we've done that, we're going to change the blending mode to linear dodge add. Alright, there we go. And let's lower the opacity of this, of our gradient. Maybe lower the opacity of this as well, so that we can make it more dark. There we go. I think I'm gonna see how this looks real quick. Yeah, I think I'm into that. Okay, I just added, because this brick wall is light on bottom, I just added some more black on the bottom. Okay, so now we're gonna actually bring in our logo. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, and actually here's a good learning opportunity. So I went to select my text and I accidentally clicked my background, and it moved my background automatically. And that can be great if you have a bunch of layers and you just want to click what you can see and move it around. That's fun. But let's say that I want to move something very small and I keep on missing it, and then I accidentally keep accidentally selecting the wrong layer. It can be very annoying. So basically what you're going to want to do is super simple. Is you're going to want to press V to select your move tool, and then see auto select, you turn it off. And now whatever layer you have selected is the layer that will move. So if I'm even all the way over here, if I move it, then this particular layer is what will move. Okay. Here we are. We've got our text in now. Alright? And I have centered it in everything. And obviously this doesn't look neon. This looks black. In fact, I can barely read it right now. So what are we going to do now? And I actually forgot my lines, so let me be right back and get that. Alright, so now I have my lines. Alright, so we want to keep our text in a smart object. That way we can easily adjust any filters that we may place on top of it. And since I didn't show you how to do this font in general, in order to make your text a smart object, so let's just say I typed Jake. Alright, and let's say you want to take your actual text and make it into a smart object so that you can be up to speed. What you're going to want to do is you're just going to grab your text and right click it and convert to smart object. And now you will literally be up to speed with everything that we're doing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually add a stroke to our first layer. And conveniently already have the gradient up and ready for me. For mine, I have my stroke at 6 pixels, and I have it centered. Really, for this one, you're gonna have to, depending on the font that you have. And actually, speaking of fonts, if you want this font, this is I downloaded it from Photoshop. This is the Corner Store JF. Okay. So, depending on the font that you have, you might want to have it on the outside or the inside, but personally I like it centered, and I have it at 100% opacity. It will automatically have it as a color for the fill type. What we're going to do is click gradient, okay? And I already have my gradient set up, okay? And we're going to do a rainbow gradient, and if you want my colors, here's the color key, so just grab that. Okay, oh yeah, and we want the angle to be at 0 and scale 100%. So press OK. And from here we're going to lower the fill to 0. Okay? That way we only get rid of the actual layer and not the effects. If we were to lower the opacity instead, that would lower the whole thing. Why would we do all this work and then completely get rid of it right after? We have done that. Let me just get rid of these lines real quick so that it doesn't distract them, but basically we'll get to that later. Since the layers are starting to pile up now, let's just start naming them so that we don't get confused when we're trying to edit them, and it's great practice.
BG color, black gradient. Alright, then let me make this. That's not what I want.
And you can group everything so that now that's out of your way and you don't even have to worry about that. So I'm actually going to put this in its own group. Lines. Bloop. And from here, now we're going to actually start making it look like it's neon. And from here we're going to copy this layer. And how we do that is we can either go down and go to create new layer, the box with the plus, and you have a copy. You can hold Alt and drag, or you can press Ctrl J. All of those are acceptable methods. I personally prefer Alt and drag. You just automatically control whether it goes above or below, and you don't have to worry about fixing it afterward. You can just get straight to work. But that's me. From here, whenever you have effects on a layer and you go to use a filter on it, and if it's a smart object, for some reason Photoshop doesn't like that. So what you need to do is some might be tempted to rasterize it, but actually it would be smarter to convert to smart object, smart object, because if you mess something up, then you can always come back and you can always adjust it. So by double clicking it, and it will open in another file. So no, I don't want to edit it. But okay, so now we should be able to go to filter, motion blur. Okay, and I'm gonna have the distance at 30, going the angle 0. Alright, and let me just change that to 0 text. And since this is a smart object, let me just show you the powers of smart objects. So I'm just going to create another, copy this again, and this time I can double click on my motion blur and adjust it. So otherwise I would have had to have copied this again and then converted to smart object and then went to blur, motion blur, and did all this stuff again. But instead I just had to copy it and adjust the blur itself, because we're doing the same thing, but this time we're going to change the angle to -45. -45 text. Alright. Now from here, we're going to create a fill. So we're going to find our magic wand. So that's this right here, or press W, and select every layer. Okay. Don't forget our I and our S. Okay, and we're going to create a new layer. Okay, and then hold G and go to gradient.
Now let me show you how I made this exactly. So first of all, go change the color, make the opacity 100%. Alright, cool. No, not quite done. And take each one and have the location at, for rainbow, I have the location 40 across, so I have it 0, 20, 40. This will be at 60, the next one will be at 80, and then at 100.
Okay. Alright, now I've got that. Okay, now I've got that gradient. So we're going to start at the beginning of our selection and drag all the way across to the end of our selection while holding shift. And there we go. We have our fill layer. Let me name that fill. And let me lower that opacity to about 15. There we go. So, and literally what we're going to do, so we're going to convert to smart object, and what we're going to do from here, oh, Ctrl D, by the way, from here we're going to do the same as we did with our outline. We're going to copy, filter, blur, motion blur. Except this one we're going to do at 90. And oh shoot. Actually, don't okay, so don't turn it into a smart object yet before you lower the opacity. Raise the opacity first, convert to smart object, and then lower the opacity to 15. That way you can still adjust it. Because once you turn it into a smart object, it will turn it into a smart object with the opacity at 15, and it's just assuming that's what it looks like now. Okay, so let's try that again. Filter, motion blur, 90. There we go, and I'm going to raise this opacity some. Oh yeah. See, I'm glad that it's a smart object. We're actually going to make the distance, instead of 30, 100. Okay? And then raise that opacity up. And so 90 fill. Okay, and do the same again, but this time at 0 for the angle. There you go. Let me change that opacity back down to 15. Actually, I think before I had it. Zero. Fill. Opacity 20%, because that's how what I had it in my original. 20%. There we go. Alright, and one last thing. For our text, we're going to copy it way down here. Going to convert to Smart Object. This will be gauze blur. Okay. I just said goes blur. Alright, and this one will be Gaussian blur. And we're going to raise that to about . And that just gives it a blur around everything. Okay? And we're going to copy this, place it right under the text, and we're going to change that Gaussian blur to only 2. Okay? That way, this actually looks like it's a light glowing. Okay? And this part is optional. This is if you actually want to make your, to give your text a little pop. Okay? To make it look more like it's glowing. So we're going to take the stroke and actually have it as a color and as white. Alright. And we're going to lower that opacity to about 15. Alright. Well, let me raise it a little bit more. Let me do like 30. Yeah, that's more like it. There you go. And we're going to take all of this and we're going to group it. That way we can make everything nice and concise. So, text. And now we're going to bring in our lines. Alright, this one is going to be slightly different because before we had to fill in the text so that it would pop more. This is just lines of light. Think of it exactly like that, lines of light. So, first off, we're going to press FX, gradient overlay, and conveniently, I already have my gradient pulled up. Can I get a darker one? Yeah, I kind of want a darker red. Okay. Alright, and we're going to do what we did before. So copy it, convert to Smart Object, filter, blur, motion blur. This one's going to be at 0. So 0 lines. And copy it again. Change the angle to 30. Oh, and I forgot to change the distance. This is why it's good to have Smart Object, because I can go back and change my filter. So we're going to actually have the distance at 30. And this one, the angle at -45. Alright. Cool. And we're going to copy, convert to Smart Object, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. This one's gonna be at about 85. This is gonna contribute to our glow around it. Alright. And so Gauze. Blur. That's nice. Creative Cloud has been updated. That's cool. Go away. Alright. And we're going to copy this layer, put it underneath the lines, and change that to 2. Make it nice and pop. And I think because the lines need a little more help than the font, because the font also had the fill layer, I'm also going to make another one of these and change the motion to 90. There we go. And 90 lines, and we're going to lower the opacity of that one. So yeah, there you go. There you have this one. And then you would just say File, Save As, save to your computer, save to document. Whichever one. Maybe you're gonna work on it on another device. Like if you have an iPad, they also have Photoshop mobile for your iPads now, and you know, it's slightly different from computer. There are certain things that you can't do, such as you can't adjust the effects yet. They're working on it, but you can't do it right now. But for right now, I'm just gonna save on my computer, and this one, neon curbs background, and save as a Photoshop file. Alright. Or save as a JPEG if you want to. If you want to make it your background. So, and then personalize. Oops. Well, and there you have it. Now we have a nice neon logo. That is it. Take your logo, you add motion blurs and Gaussian blurs for the various effects that you want, and you get your neon logo. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. I do graphic design on Tuesdays, gaming on Thursdays, the 2 double G's. That's rather redundant. Okay, thank you guys for watching. I've been Neon Curbs, and light up with you later.